For those of you who are already on, I'd love to get the chat engagement going. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. You could share which institution you're with and say hello. Thanks, Ethan, for breaking the seal and being the first to introduce yourself. Okay, well, it's just a minute after, so let's jump on in. So, hello everyone, and welcome to today's Campus ESP webinar. This will be a product-focused webinar with the product team talking about the features we just released earlier this month. So just starting with some introductions from the Campus ESP team while there are also introductions happening in the chat. I will go first. My name is Brooke Sternick. I'm the VP of Product and Product Marketing at Campus ESP. So my team oversees all feature development. So, which product enhancements we're going to work on and what they look like. We spend a lot of time talking to customers, especially some of you who I already see in the chat, getting your feedback on what we're building and whether it meets your goals. And I've been at Campus ESP for 7 years. I was actually employee number 1 at Campus ESP in 2017. And I'm joined by my colleague, Tiffany.
Hey everyone, I'm Tiffany. I'm a product owner at Campus ESP. So I help build new features in the platform. And I also talk to customers, talk to you all about what you would like to see built in our platform. And I help build the features that we're going to talk about today. So very excited to take you guys through what we've built.
Yep. And I'm sure you all see that many folks are introducing themselves in the chat and just sharing names and job titles, what institution they're from. So if you're just joining now, please do introduce yourself in the chat and get the conversation going. So here's our plan for today. We've got a packed agenda. We are going to cover the details of the core features that we released earlier this month. That's AI-powered content, event check-in, funnel enhancements for our student enrollment module, quick reports, and a survey builder. And for each of these features, I'm going to cover an overview and best practices in the slide deck. And then Tiffany's going to do a demo of how it works. And our goal is to really help. I mean, this presentation, we have mostly current customers on here, not entirely, but our goal is to just help you better understand use cases and get you using these features as quickly as possible. Couple logistics. We know that this is nobody's first rodeo with webinars. You've been on a bunch by now, but I just want to call out that the lines are on mute because it's easier that way, but we still want to encourage participation. It is certainly more fun and more productive when you all are sharing your own ideas and your own use cases to get the conversation going. So feel free to share impressions and ideas in the chat, and definitely ask questions in the chat. Tiffany and I will address questions throughout the webinar. And then we also have Jack Ellis from our team, who some of you may know. He's also monitoring the chat and can help answer questions throughout the webinar as well. Lastly, as always, we send out the slide deck and the recording afterwards. So feel free to take notes if you'd like to, but you're not going to miss anything because we'll send out all the information afterwards. So I'm just going to do a very brief overview of Campus ESP because, like I said, while many of you are current customers, not everyone here today is already using Campus ESP. So welcome to those of you who are new. So we work with nearly 450 colleges and universities and support over 10 million families. Campus ESP is really your all-in-one parent engagement strategy that helps you do everything you need to do with parent communication. We have experts on our team that'll help you be successful with your parent engagement strategy. And then our goal is to show a ton of analytics to help you see and prove that your parent engagement efforts are working. So we have, a parent portal experience. Our system sends out emails, text messages, provides event management capabilities that we're going to talk about a lot today. Our team, you'll have a dedicated account manager. Most of our account managers actually come from higher ed and have been former users of Campus ESP. And then we really aim to show and continue to improve our reporting with a performance dashboard and monthly emails from Campus ESP to show you that it's working. And as part of today's webinar, we're going to cover some of our new reporting capabilities as well. Okay, so let's jump into the fun stuff, the new features we released and why. So I'm sure no one on this call has seen a company announcing their AI strategy lately. Obviously, I'm joking. AI is everywhere. It's taking off for a reason. Seriously, if any of you on this call have not yet tried ChatGPT or used other AI tools, I couldn't encourage it more. Like the time savings and the productivity gains are really kind of insane. We're using a lot of AI on the Campus ESP team. And the beginning of our AI strategy is more content features that are powered by AI. So we recently released AI-powered content, which helps you all create stronger content more quickly, so that you all can spend more time on the business of engaging families and not developing and writing content. So some of the benefits we support with AI-powered content is first, you can really develop new content from scratch by just asking the AI editor to write you an email about family weekend and a bunch of other use cases, which we'll cover on the next slide. One of the ways I have found this to be most helpful is editing your existing content. So there's options to help you simplify messages. We've seen customers do this with FAFSA and like just some really complicated messages. You can prompt the AI editor to really like boil this down for first gen families or boil it down for someone who may not know a whole lot about higher ed. There's options to improve the grammar or change the tone to make something sound more friendly or more academic or more in line with your institution's brand standards. The language translation tool is what I've heard has made our current customers the most excited. A lot of you all focus on engaging Spanish speaking families or international families or other key populations. And this tool can translate the language like really in a matter of seconds. And we even heard just anecdotally from one of our current customers that this is an institution that pays a person to do translation services. And this person was not able to tell that their Spanish speaking content was created by AI. And I think that really just speaks to the quality of the translation. And then lastly, we're really trying to make an effort to help our customers who use Campus ESP for text messaging send more text, and send stronger text. So with the click of a button, you could turn any post or an announcement into a much shorter text message. And this is really critical when it comes to reaching Black, Hispanic, and low-income families who we know from our research often prefer text messaging over emails. So considering that AI is pretty new and a lot of folks have tried it maybe a couple of times but aren't super well versed yet in creating useful prompts, we wanted to provide some best practices to help you get started. So first of all, for anyone who just wants to try using the AI editor, a couple of topics that we know are top of mind with the time of year we're in right now is just try prompting the AI editor to write you 10 tips for move-in or easy guidance for the FAFSA. I already referenced this, but I've seen it do a really good job of breaking down like technical terms and complex topics into like really straightforward and simple guidance. We're also seeing some of our enrollment customers doing nudges for deposited or confirmed families to help prevent summer melt and take all the steps they need to take throughout the summer. Going a level deeper, there are ways to take the content that the AI editor creates and make it more personalized for your institution. So you can specify what audience you want content to be relevant for, and you can also specify what institution you want content to be relevant for. And I would really encourage everyone to lean into that. So just using one of these examples from above, 10 tips for move-in, you could say, like, make this content specific to an incoming first-year family that has never sent a student to college before and may not know what to expect, and make this relevant to my institution, BVU, and the AI editor will pull in content from your website and from your marketing materials online. Another use case that our customers have been excited by, and just as a preview, we are going to do more on the product side to make this easier to use, is to take all of the wonderful student content that your marketing folks or maybe you yourself have already created and automatically turn that into parent content. So some of you do this manually right now. You go in and you change the language. Instead of saying you change it to your student, or you edit out some elements that has more parent-facing language, but AI can do that for you automatically. And I also want to call out that you can put URLs into the prompt and ask it to take a very specific resource or specific web page and just go ahead and turn that into parent-facing content. So these are just some ideas to get the ball rolling. I see that in the chat, Eva Reyes shared another example of how she's using this feature. And as I transition to Tiffany to show what this looks like at a demo, I really encourage more conversation in the chat about how you have used this or ideas you have for how you may use this in the future. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Great, thanks, Brooke. So let's dive into the AI-powered content. So this feature, again, it's available for posts, announcement, and SMS, but today the example I'm going to use is sending an announcement reminding families to register for family orientation. So once you've filled out the basic details, we're on to designing the email, and you can see that our text editor here now supports an option for AI tools. And when you click on that, we have a few options that pop up. One, you can create prompt from scratch, and you can also edit your existing content by clicking any of these options. I'm going to create content from scratch, so I'm going to click Create Prompt. So I'm just going to prompt the AI editor and say, write an email reminding families of college students to register for family orientation, and send that into the AI editor. And you can see very quickly all of that messaging just populate within seconds. All right, and once that populates, I can see if I'm happy with it. If I'm not happy with it, I can ask the AI editor to make any changes. But let's say I am happy with it, so I'm going to go ahead and insert it into the text box. And I also want to show you guys a few ways that you can edit your content from here. So let's say I'm happy with this email, but I do want to change the tone a little bit. I want to make it a little bit more energy building, a bit more exciting. I can go ahead and use the change tone option and select any tone that I want to use. So I'm going to go with exciting, and you can see that it writes the exact same email in a different tone. And another use case that Brooke called out was translating the content. So you can also just click on this translate option if you want to reach certain families who don't speak English. So I'm going to pick Spanish, and you can see that this content changes to Spanish. Cool. So the whole email is populating now. And then one last use case that I want to take you guys through is turning this into an SMS campaign. So for that, I'll just take it back to English. This is a really good way to make sure that families are seeing the content that you want them to see. All you need to do is click on Turn into SMS campaign, and that populates the same announcement, but in a shortened SMS version. So you can send out a quick text to families with the exact same content. All you have to do is fill out some basic details and schedule the SMS campaign. So both an announcement and an SMS were created within minutes. So definitely very, very easy to use. So yeah, I just showed you guys a few use cases, but definitely encourage everyone to go into your own portal and play around with all the different options that we support. So yeah, back to you, Brooke.
Thanks, Tiffany. It's really pretty mesmerizing to watch the new content populate and change, and hopefully you all are getting some ideas of. We know there's always ideas that you're like, one day when I have time, I'd love to develop a campaign for first-gen families or Spanish-speaking families. We hope that with these time savings, you feel like you're able to get to that now. Okay, jumping back in. We are going to look next at event check-in. So event check-in was a customer requested feature, and it really shows in the utilization stats that we've seen already. So we already have over 30 events with check-in enabled within just the first 3 weeks of launching this. And we're seeing this from very large institutions, some of you who may be on this call today, Penn State, Oregon State, Syracuse, Clemson, as well as smaller institutions like William and Mary have already enabled this. So thank you to everyone who requested this feature and for helping us turn it into something that you're excited to use. So I also want to call out the event check-in, and really all of the event management features are free. And if you are a Campus CSP customer, you have access to these features. So don't hesitate to kind of inquire more about how to set them up. And really the goal of our check-in features are to help you streamline your event management and make events easier. So a couple of the components, which Tiffany will show in more detail, is that you can scan QR codes to register families. And then in case any family is not able to find their QR code, you can also search for their information manually. One thing we really wanted to make sure of was that it'd be easy to find important registration details during the check-in process. So if at your check-in booth you hand out parking passes or you hand out t-shirt sizes, you're able to configure that in your event form of which information you'd like to show up at the point of registration. There's a whole bunch of real-time check-in data. You can see your progress of how many families have already been checked in, how many families are remaining, and kind of where you're at in your process. Then there's more detail that you can export after the fact. Some feedback that we got from you all was that in addition to tracking the total number of families that are attending, you wanted to be able to see the total number of individuals that are attending. So you'll get both stats. You'll get data kind of at the party level or the family level and also at the individual level. And then lastly, we had the ability to process on-site registrations, but this is an optional feature that could be turned on or off because we know that not all institutions utilize on-site registrations. A couple best practices to share with the crew. One thing we added is the ability to configure automated event reminder emails. So now when you're building out your event, which could be weeks or months before the event happens and registration goes live, you could just set up an automated reminder at different time periods, like a week before the event, the day before the event, the day of the event, and you kind of set it, forget it. And these event reminders will include QR codes so that it's hopefully easier for families to find them and show up to your check-in table with their QR code ready to go. Next, I think there's a lot of use cases for how you can leverage the check-in data. This is some feedback we've already heard from customers about what they're excited about, but you'll get the timestamp data. So you'll see which days most check-ins are happening or which times of the day most check-ins are happening. And you can use that to really optimize future events and make sure that you're setting up the right hours and you're staffing your booth appropriately to help your team. And lastly, there are a lot of ways you can get clever about demonstrating not only the ROI of your event, but demonstrating the ROI of your parent engagement efforts at large. So some things we heard from customers when they were convincing us why we needed to build this feature is that you can look at which parents have attended your events and you could tie that back to student outcomes like student retention and student success, and our students more likely to be successful if their parents are engaged at this level. We'd love to do more case studies to explore that, but our guess is that parent attendance probably is tied to student success. So again, any other ideas of how to use check-in or any other thoughts, definitely share it in the chat. And I'm going to pass it back off to Tiffany to do a demo of what it looks like and how to set it up.
All right, so I'm going to show you guys how to check in families with our event check-in feature. For any event that has check-in enable, you're going to see this check-in mode button here, which you'll be able to click on the day of the event. So let's say that I am checking families into Fall Family Weekend. So for the day of the event, I'm going to go ahead and hit check-in mode, and that will bring me to this check-in landing page. And before taking you guys through this page, definitely want to call out that we optimize this for mobile and tablet, since we know many of you are checking folks in on smaller devices. So should work very seamlessly with tablets and mobile. And as Brooke mentioned, we support a few different ways to check families in. If they have their personalized QR code handy, you can go ahead and hit scan code and check them in that way. If you support on-site registration and someone has not yet registered for the event, you can also click on-site registration, and that'll pull up this QR code that the family member can scan so that they can register for the event and get checked in. So I'll be showing you guys checking in someone just by searching their email, first name, or last name. So once the person pops up, you can click on that, and that is going to bring you to this page, which shows you all of their important registration details. And as Brooke mentioned, you can configure exactly which questions you want to show up here. This is really useful to see like how many tickets that they purchased, any gear that they purchased that you want to hand out at the point of check-in, whether or not they need a parking pass, and some other options. So once you've handed out what you needed to hand out, you can go ahead and check the family member in. We also support inputting how many people are with the registrant. So in this example, this person purchased 3 general admission tickets, and let's say that all 3 of these people are present. So we're going to up that number and check in 3 people. And that's it. That's how you check someone into Family Weekend or any other event that you have configured. You can also see that the most recently checked in folks will appear up here. And we're also tracking all of this data live. So it's going to update as you check people in. We're going to show the number of registrants, how many registrants have checked in, how many people have yet to check in, so you can keep track of that throughout the event. And also just the number of attendees. So how many people are physically at your event at any moment. Cool. So I'm going to jump back into the admin portal, exit check-in mode, and show you guys how you can access this data after the event. So if you click on any event and go to the registrants tab, you can see all of this data populate over here, as well as broken down by each individual registrant. And you also have the option to export all this data, and that'll include their check-in information and timestamp. And last 2 things I want to show you guys is just how easy it is to get set up with event check-in. When you create a new event with registration, all you have to do is make sure that this checkbox is checked off. If it is, then the event will support check-in. And when you are building your event, you'll get to a step where you're creating your event form. And when you add a question, if you want this question to show up on the check-in form the day of the event, all you have to do is make sure that this check-in form checkbox is checked off. And then that will also make sure that that shows up. So yeah, very, very easy to use. And yeah, that's it with event check-in.
Thanks, Tiffany. There have been a bunch of questions in the chat, some of which we've been answering within the chat, but there are a couple of questions I just want to answer live for everyone, because I think these may be questions other folks have as well. So one question from Amy is there a link for on-site registration that we should share with staff who will be helping us check in families? The link for on-site registration is the same link that is the link to the event in general. I don't know, Tiffany, not to put you on the spot, but maybe you could pull that event back up and just kind of show what happens when you preview an event and what link I'm referring to.
Mm-hmm.
But it's it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so if you support on-site registration, then the QR code is going to link to whatever event that you're currently running. So if a parent scans the QR code, they're going to be brought to this registration page, which is the event form. I've already registered, so that's why you're seeing this QR code here, but if a family hasn't filled out a registration yet, they'll have a fresh form that they can fill out these answers to.
Yep, exactly. Thank you. One question from Barry is, can more than one device be logged in to check families for the same event? The answer is yes, and we built that in mind because we know that there's often a handful of staff or volunteers supporting the check-in process. So they can all be logged in simultaneously. Question from Quincy is, does the check-in feature have to be added when you create the event, or can it be used for an event that is already live? Yes, you can enable check-in at any point. So if you already have events you created, you can enable check-in the morning of the event and it'll work. And then the last question I'm going to take, but we can continue to answer any questions in the chat as we move on, is Amy's question of, can you check people into specific ticketed events built within the overarching one? So that's a really good question. And the short answer is no, we do check in for the overarching event, but we have worked with customers who have had really clever ways of building out their event form where specific ticketed events are their own standalone event form. And then in that case, you would have the workaround to do check-in for each event. So that may be kind of more like complex one-off question that you could absolutely work with your account manager on, but I have seen some schools get creative about coming up with solutions to that. All right, I'm gonna keep moving in the interest of time to our student enrollment related enhancements, but definitely keep the questions coming in the chat and we will address them. Okay. So our funnel enhancements are for our enrollment focused customers. And our goal was just to make some of your existing screens more simple and more actionable and just way more easier to use. You gave us some feedback that these screens were a bit confusing and we wanted to improve that. So if you've seen the funnel view before, you'll notice that this is just definitely an improved user experience. It's cleaner and it's more focused on the data that matters, like parent promoter score. We've added this concept of badging. You could kind of think of it as similar to like a verified check mark on certain social platforms. And this is going to help you easily identify the users with a registered account. I'm going to talk way more about the benefits of that in just a moment, but enrollment folks want to know which users registered their account because their students are more likely to enroll. We've developed dynamic call to action buttons that will automatically target the audience you're viewing. So if you want to send an announcement or send a text message or export a user list, and you're looking at a list of your fall 2023 applicants, when you click on the call to action button, it'll automatically populate all the targeting criteria to that exact audience to make it a lot easier to take the action that you're trying to take. And then for our enrollment customers, we got some feedback that the way we handled entry terms was a little bit confusing, and looking at multiple entry terms at the same time was not the best way to study your data. So we've made a big update that helps you only focus on like your most current cohort at a time. So right now, in many cases, it'll default to fall 2024. And then in the couple months ahead, it'll transfer over to fall 2025. You can always update the view, but we just wanted to make it more focused on the data that you're really looking at. So that's updates to an existing report. We also added a new report called the Registered Accounts Report. And this is where Campus ESP can really help you get into enrollment predictive modeling. So first, like, what does it mean to have a registered account? The most simple explanation is that these are users who have set a password in Campus ESP, and it's showing just a much higher level of engagement and interest from these families. And our research shows that if the parent registers the account the student is 11 times more likely to enroll at your institution, which is a really high figure. But when you think about it, if the parent is logging in and creating a password and uploading a profile picture like some of these folks are and really actively using the portal, it's because they're really serious about your institution. They wouldn't go through that effort if they weren't serious about sending their student there. So this data is super valuable, and we wanted to make it easier for our customers to tap into this data. So again, just similar to what I shared on the last slide with the call to action buttons, once you see who the registered accounts are at each funnel stage, we want to make it easy to leverage the data by either exporting the list or sending communications to these families. A couple of best practices for how to leverage the registered accounts data. So thinking of fall 2024 and some kind of end of cycle, last ditch efforts, if you have admitted families who registered their account, but their student hasn't deposited yet, if you're still accepting deposits, or hasn't enrolled yet, you should send this list to your admissions counselors to kind of check in and see where they're at and potentially go after them. Because these are families who their student was admitted, they're highly engaged with you, their student is more likely to enroll, and this may be a population that you can use to still impact your fall 2024 enrollment. Looking ahead to fall 2025 and more top of the funnel efforts, we fairly recently added a new feature for recurring announcements, which are recurring emails. And one of our recommendations is to set up a recurring announcement at the top of your funnel for families with a registered account and nudge them to apply. So again, if even at the inquiry stage, a parent is setting up a profile and actively engaging with your portal, they're super interested, their student probably will apply, and you can kind of just nudge them to begin that process. And then in general, for anyone who's had a hard time developing content and navigating the targeting criteria features, if you just want to make it easier to set up an announcement or set up a text message or set up a user export, we really recommend beginning with the funnel page, because like I shared, all your data will auto-populate for you based off the audience you're viewing. So it removes a couple steps in the process for you. I think this will make a lot more sense when Tiffany shows what it looks like in the demo. So I'm going to transition this back to Tiffany.
All right, let's jump into the student enrollment funnel enhancements. All right. So when you land on your funnel workspace, the first report you're going to see is our newly redesigned funnel snapshot. Again, this is going to show you every single stage and its associated engagement metrics. As Brooke pointed out, we're now going to segment this data by your current entry term, but of course you have the option to look back or look forward and look at this data segmented by other entry terms as well. I also want to call out the new call to action buttons over here, which are dynamic. So I'm going to show you all how that works. You can expand each stage to see all the users within each stage. And you can also see that this green badge in action, allowing you to see who exactly has registered their account. So showing you guys how these call to action buttons work. Let's say that I would like to export the list of fall 2024 inquiries to send to my admissions counselors. Go ahead and expand this stage, click on See Users, which is going to take me to a view with all of the users in this stage. And when I click Export Users, you can just see that all of this targeting criteria has already populated. So all you have to do is fill out a few more fields and then get your export. Cool. So jumping back into the funnel workspace, also want to show you all the new registered accounts report. Again, this shows you which users have registered their account at every funnel stage. You can also segment this data by any specific entry term you want to look at and expand the stages to see all the users who have this higher engagement and have registered their account at this point. One of the best practices that Brooke pointed out was sending a nudge to admitted folks who have registered their account but have not yet submitted a deposit. So you may want to go to the admit stage, click See All Users, and that'll bring you to a view of all fall 2024 admits who have registered their account. And now you can very, very easily create an SMS campaign or an announcement to nudge these users to deposit. So just to show you guys that real quick, you click Send SMS, all of that targeting criteria has already populated. And all you need to do is write your text message and schedule it. And that is it with the funnel enhancements.
Thanks, Tiffany. I was just reading the chat. It seems like there are a bunch of questions coming in that we're addressing. If you have any other questions, please put them in the chat. But one question or idea that I just want to call out in case you're missing the chat is, hold on, need to scroll back to it. A lot of activity happening. But an idea from Ashlyn to send an automatic email to parents, thanking them for registering their accounts, which is, I think, a really smart idea. And Jack from our team responded to the comment and provided some ideas on how you can do that. So I think that's another great recommendation. Thanks, Ashlyn. Any other ideas and recommendations? Feel free to put them in the chat. Okay, we just have a couple other topics to cover. The next one is click reports in Campus ESP. And this was another customer feature, a customer requested feature, just like the rest of them. So the click reports were designed to help you really get deeper with your content strategy and your outreach strategy. This one's pretty straightforward, but we'd still like to share some best practices. So really the gist of this feature is that it lets you view which users clicked on which links at which timestamp. And previously we would provide high-level click data, like how many clicks happened, how many unique clicks happened, what the click rate was, but we never made it easy to see who the individuals were and what links that they were clicking on. So not only will you be able to view this within your portal, you can also export the data, and then you can also add users who clicked to a specific community. And this is one of the topics I want to dive a level deeper on in the recommendations. This feature of click reports has been added to announcements, to text messages, and to advertisements, which are typically the channels you're using when you really want to get a parent to click on something. So what are some of our recommendations for click reports? On the enrollment side, there are a ton of ideas, but just to surface one of them is as you all send out deposit reminders or application reminders or enrollment reminders, you'll be able to see which parents clicked on it, but didn't yet take the action, and then follow up with them to complete the action. And there's a lot more detail I didn't put on this slide, but you can go deep with communities and dynamic communities and even automate some of this work where you can create a list of who clicked but who did not deposit, and then set up some content automations to go to that group until that they take the action. A very similar concept on the parent fundraising side. If you are an institution that's using parent giving, you can see which families clicked on a fundraising campaign but didn't actually make the gift, and then follow up with this group. And we know that a lot of you all like to be sensitive and thoughtful about not over communicating with families. But certainly if a family clicked on the button and got halfway there, you know they're interested, and you know that they're going to be more receptive to hearing more from you and from your institution. Lastly, talking about the use case of communities. So we've seen a lot of institutions get pretty sophisticated about doing like multi-channel campaigns. And what that means is, say you want to remind families to register for Family Weekend. You may create an advertisement and put it in your portal. You may create an advertisement and put it in your newsletter. You may send out 5 different email announcements about it. You may send 3 text messages about it. And each of those channels have their own reporting, but you can use a community to kind of summarize the cross-channel results. So you could just look at the total number of parents or the total list of parents that clicked across all the announcements and all the advertisements and all the text messages, and really, really get deeper with your reporting. So I think this feature, like, this is just the beginning of some of the best practices. I'm curious to hear if anyone has any other ideas as I transition over to the demo section.
All right, so I'm going to show you all how to access the Click reports for announcements, but it will be very similar for the other features as well. So going with the best practice of sending a reminder to deposit, let's say I've set up that announcement and I have two different links for this announcement. I can go ahead up here and click on Click Report, and that's going to show me every single user who clicked, exactly what timestamp they clicked, and exactly which URL they clicked on. And as Brooke mentioned, you can download all of the click data if you want, or you can download just the unique click data. And you can also add these users to a community to follow up with them after. So these users are in the admit stage, they clicked on these links to deposit, but they haven't yet moved over to the deposit stage. So I might want to add them to a community so that I can follow up with these folks afterwards. And yeah, pretty straightforward. That is Click Reports.
This is definitely one of the more simple features we just released. I don't see any questions in the chat related to Click Reports. So let's just move on to the final feature we're going to do a deep dive on today, which is our survey builder. So fun fact, the survey builder is not a new feature. This is really a relaunched feature. When we had our customer summit in May, some of the feedback we got, one of our customers was talking about how they've used surveys, and other customers in the room are like, surveys? We didn't know Campus CSP had surveys, which was definitely a red flag to us that we were not making this widely known. So we kind of renamed this feature. We put it in a new location in the portal to make it easier to find. And we are relaunching this to make sure that everyone knows that this is, it's free, it's included, and it's at your disposal to use. So the survey builder is really similar to any other form builder in Campus CSP. If you've ever created an event form, if you've ever edited your onboarding form, it's a lot of the same features, but just to call out a couple of them, there's a lot of flexibility. You can create required questions if there's certain data fields you really need to collect more information about or need to kind of fill gaps in your parent database about. You can create conditional questions that appear based on prior responses. So one common use case is that some of our customers that are focused on fundraising will ask families, like, are you interested in getting more involved with the university? And if they say yes, then there will be new drop downs that say, are you interested in giving? And if they say yes, there'll be new drop downs that ask what they're interested in giving to or which areas they're interested in supporting. So there's a lot of use cases for conditional questions, but it kind of helps keep your form short and sweet and dig in certain areas where we know parents are interested. If you have existing parent data, which you all do, you can set up your forms to pre-populate with the parent data that exists. An example is like you already have the parent's first name, you already have the last name, you may have the email, well, you will have the email, you may have phone number, address, student data. If you'd like to ask those questions again, or if you'd like to update that with more recent information, you could just pre-populate what's already in the Campus CSP database and just have parents confirm it or update it if needed. And then there's a ton of advanced rules, and really encourage customers to really take advantage of this. But basically, like almost any answer a parent provides on the survey, you can turn that into a community and really continue to track, who's the parent of a first year student versus third-year student, who's the parent of a first-gen student or a Spanish-speaking student or an alum, and all these other demographics that we know you're focused on. We can also personalize surveys based off of whether a parent is a current parent or a prospective parent, and other factors as well. So again, a couple of best practices, ideas from our team and successful ideas we've seen our customers doing. On the prospective parent side, I think it is a complete no-brainer to survey parents about what the students' enrollment plans are. Many of you already do this for students. You say, do you intend to enroll? Yes, no, maybe. Some of you ask for students who do not choose your institution, like where are you going and why and what factors fed into your decision. Parents are like a whole other ballgame than students. Parents will respond at much higher rates than students will. They just are, they're on email more, they're more responsive, they're more willing to engage and communicate with your team. So even if you have these surveys already set up to students, you may get more data and more responses if you send the same kinds of surveys to families. On the current parent side, there are a ton of use cases, but some of the most common ones we see are collecting feedback after events, finding out in generally where families need more support. You could send a survey to first-year families at the end of the year and say, what did you think of the content we sent you? What do you still have questions about? Where can we support you? And again, with the parent fundraising examples I provided, just try to understand which parents want to get more involved with your institution. Lastly, already touched on this, but every parent response for the most part can sort the parent into a community, which you can use to track data and then personalize the follow-up. So that's it on Survey Builders. We're going to have Tiffany do it, the last demo of the presentation. We're going to go through a couple of wrap-up slides and then answer any other outstanding questions.
All right, last demo. Yeah, so just going to show you guys the survey landing page. You can access that from the content tab over here. And when you're on the surveys page, you can access all the surveys that you've created, download responses, and see how many people have responded. And I'm going to show you guys what this looks like in the portal. This survey is a fall family weekend survey, since we've used that use case a few times. This survey is public and will be available to all families on their portal, but we always encourage you to push this survey out through as a link in an announcement. So for example, if you wanted to push out this survey to people who attended your family weekend event, you could set the targeting criteria to that and push that survey out to that audience. And just want to show you all the type of questions we support. We support radio button questions, checkbox questions, short form text and long form text, drop downs, and a few others. So there's a lot of different variety that you can set up. And I also want to call out that in addition to collecting all this parent data, saving it to their user profile forms, you can also set up rules that will place users in certain communities based on how they answered. So for example, with this question, would you be interested in joining other programs such as the Parent Association? You could set up a rule that says, if this parent answered yes, then I'm going to add them to the Interested in Parent Associations community. And then you can follow up and communicate with that parent that way. And jumping back to the admin side, just want to show you all a few more configuration options. You can publish or unpublish the survey at any time or update what questions you want to show up, and that'll update immediately. And you can also see a very easy visual breakdown of how folks are responding to your questions. So you can see that we have a bar graph for every question that you have configured, a few different ways you can view this data, switching between bar chart and pie chart, and you can also export this data as well. So that is everything with surveys.
Okay, thanks, Tiffany. I am going to share just a couple last wrap-up slides, and then we have 10 minutes to answer any other questions that may come through. Yeah, these are really wrap-up slides. So if you'd like to learn more, I'm sure many of you are familiar with this, but we have a blog and a resources page on our website. We have some information about how customers are already using these features, but since these features have only been out there for 3 weeks, over the months ahead, we will develop more case studies and customer profiles on where folks are seeing success with these features that you can read to learn more. I also want to call out some other Campus CSP resources at your disposal. So hopefully everyone is familiar with the Campus CSP Learning Series. These are like more intimate trainings with our customer success team and our account management team that happen several times a month. You can pop in, ask questions, get help, really go a level deeper and start to, you get more personalized one-on-one support than we can easily offer on a webinar of this size. You always have your account manager and your customer success manager at your disposal. Hopefully you know their email address, but if not, you got support@campuscsp.com and we'll put you in contact with the right person. And then lastly, for anyone on this call who is not currently a Campus CSP customer and is inspired to learn more, you can always book a demo on our website as well. But if I could push just one thing personally, I would really check out the Campus CSP Learning Series, and it's a good way to really continue the conversation from today in more detail. On that note, we've got 8 minutes. There was a ton of really good chatter in the Zoom chat, good ideas, good questions. And if you do not have any other questions, feel free to go. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sitting through this webinar. We appreciate you and your interest in learning more about the product. And then if you do have any other questions, Tiffany and I are going to stick around and answer them. All right, we're getting a lot of thank yous. Thank you, guys. Hope everyone has a good rest of their day. Ashlyn just asked, will we receive this recording in an email? Yes, you will receive this recording in an email. We'll follow up in the next couple of days. All right. The participant list is dwindling, so maybe we take this as a sign that there are no further questions. But for anyone else who's still here, thank you again for your time and for your partnership. And I look forward to seeing how you all use these features. Have a good day.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.